There was no council roundup today. It's because they postponed Tuesday night's council meeting to Wednesday night. That's tonight. So we'll bring you the council roundup tomorrow at 7 o'clock. But if you remember a couple of weeks ago, there was a lot of talk about what to do with the Wyndham City Centre downtown Springfield, a pretty iconic piece of Springfield's landscape. And the idea was to have the owner of Wyndham sell it to a New York firm. The New York firm would come in and change a lot of the hotel rooms into either studio apartments, one-bedroom apartments, two-bedroom apartments, and have carved out a few hotel rooms to allow for people to stay in downtown Springfield for like conventions and whatnot. They would also maintain the convention space, but there would be shared space in some of the various quarters of the Wyndham City Centre to allow for like swimming, for instance. What do you think of this? Because Springfield alderman shot it down a couple of weeks ago. 217-629-7970. That's the phone number. I want to hear from you. What do you think should happen with the Wyndham City Centre downtown Springfield? This obviously is a major building, and the owner of the building said that they don't need a zoning variance for another idea if Springfield aldermen don't allow for the change that they're looking for. And what they could go ahead and do now is they could just make it government subsidized housing in downtown Springfield at the Wyndham City Centre. Your thoughts on this? Again, 217-629-7970. That's the phone number here. With Springfield's Morning News, I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. This building's been in Springfield since 1974, and it's had many different affectionate nicknames. I remember talking with people outside of Springfield years ago, and they knew they were coming up to Springfield when they saw the symbol. I'm just not gonna go there. You probably know what I'm saying. Anyway, maybe you don't. Being too cryptic. I'll tell you over a beer sometime. But what do you think? Okay, so should Springfield aldermen have allowed for the Wyndham City Centre to sell and to allow for market rate one-bedroom or two-bedroom or studio apartments at the Wyndham City Centre and a few hotel rooms? They shot that down. And the owner says, well, that means we're going to go ahead and do some government-subsidized housing. Now, all of this hinges on debt that the owner... somebody on Facebook got it. That was accurate. So should Springfield aldermen have accepted this proposal? I think that they were looking for a more carve out of hotel space because city officials say that once the Legacy Point sports complex gets built, we're going to see just a flood of hotel space that's needed, according to city officials. Now, it's still years out before we get to actually having that sports complex, and the prospective owner of the Wyndham and the owner of the Wyndham say right now it's not sustainable just as a hotel. And having 25% occupancy rates on average throughout the year, that's not sustainable. Not only is it not sustainable for the owners, it's not sustainable for their employment perspectives as well, because then you have people who work a whole bunch one week and then the next week there's no convention going on and there's no work for them to do. So how do we best utilize this space? And was that the best option moving forward, is to allow for the owners of the Wyndham to sell and to convert some of those units into apartment units. 217-629-7970 is the phone number. Again, 217-629-7970. When we talked with Mayor Jim Langfelder about this, he was hopeful that there was going to be some kind of compromise that can be made, especially with a large debt that the owner has coming due in just a handful of days here, sometime in August that they said that this debt is owed. And they were wanting to sell the Wyndham to a different buyer who is then going to put in about $25 million in investments to update the various units into apartment units. And then they were also possibly going to be looking to the city of Springfield for $15 million in possible tax increment financing to finish it off. But city aldermen, they didn't bite. They didn't take it. They decided against it. In a zoning change, they voted it down. But I want to hear from you as somebody who's in and around Springfield. What are your thoughts about the Wyndham City Centre and the proposed conversion that they were looking for that Springfield alderman ultimately shot down? This is, one of the topics when I was getting my hair cut yesterday, by the way. How's it look? This was one of the topics that came up. My stylist said, "What do you think was going on with Wyndham?" And both of us just like, what's going on? Can you imagine having government subsidized housing at the Wyndham City Centre? Because that's what the owner says is going to happen if they can't sell the property, because they quite frankly can't sustain low occupancy rates at this particular hotel. 217-629-7970 is the phone number. You can also email bishoponair@gmail.com. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Well, good morning, Greg. Happy to be on the show with you. I would say call this bluff, because there's so many hoops they have to jump through to turn that into a Section 8 apartment building, or whatever you want to call it, basically a tenement house. And they have to put in kitchens, and those rooms are like one rooms with a bathroom. It doesn't have any amenities because there's a lot of things you have to do to have a Section 8 housing. And then once you get that, basically, if you could even do that, you have to refurbish the whole, the whole building. And then once it does get into the clientele, they'll pretty much be trashed before a year. Because that's what happens at these places. They just get torn up, destroyed, and then he has to redo it again. So I'd say call his bluff. So yeah, go ahead.
All right, so interesting. Yeah, it's a fair point that it is going to take some changes and some modifications and a lot of hoops, as you say, to jump through to make it government-subsidized housing. But that's what the developer said. Somebody else on Facebook said, tear it down. That's pretty extreme. The debt is the owner's responsibility. It's downtown Springfield. He should have known better. It's Springfield, anything... in Springfield, anything's possible. I guess so. But your thoughts at 217-629-7970. And one listener says, call the owner's bluff and make him do it. Make him do the Section 8. Or should there be a deal made to allow for maybe fewer apartment units as opposed to all the apartment units they were wanting to do, carving out a small slice of hotels. And this is, right in the heart of downtown. A lot of conventions use that space, but we don't have conventions necessarily all year round that need to use that space. And is it really the prospect of having a lot more hotel space needed whenever we get the Legacy Point sports complex together? Is that a reality that we can hold out for? Because that's still a couple of years out, and the owner of the Wyndham says it's just not sustainable. Your thoughts, 217-629-7970. Good morning.
Well, good morning. As far as the sports complex is concerned with the Wyndham, it's going to be a bust. Chatham has several sports complexes. One sports complex that was behind the Bun golf courses went out of business. We had the ball field over on North, and it's not bringing in enough people to support the Wyndham. I'm fine with building in some nice apartments there. Let them put them in. It's the owner's decision. They own it. Let them build something that they can actually make money off of, which will, again, bring taxes into our economy and our community.
Yeah, so you're saying go ahead and let them have that modification to zoning to build those apartments, and you're not really buying into seeing an increase of hotel occupancy if they get the Legacy Sports complex built and operating. I'll take another call. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Good morning. It's going to take more than the Legacy Point complex to draw on that much occupancy, but like the last caller just said, it's the owner's building. Let him do what he wants with it, and I don't see where you can tell somebody where they can or can't sell it. And as for Bunker's comment on just let him call his bluff, well, he already said he's going to spend I don't know how many millions renovating it for apartments, so it'd be probably about the same amount to renovate it for Section 8. And then with Section 8, you're guaranteed in a government contract monthly payment. So I mean, he's guaranteed a good monthly payment out of an apartment where he's not guaranteed a one-night occupancy, wouldn't be near what you'd get for a monthly payment. So calling his bluff, I don't believe that's really the answer. So
appreciate the call. 217-629-7970 is the phone number. Got an email here, says, me, no dog in the fight, but with downtown roads as bad as they are, how can you drive to it? Well, downtown roads aren't that bad. Come on. It's guys don't have to be fuddy-duddies and negative Nancys out there. But I appreciate the wide range of response here because that, I think, kind of in a way shows you where people are on this issue. Either call the owner's bluff, or Legacy Sports Complex isn't going to be as a boom as people think it is, and even the idea of just letting a business owner do what they need to do to sustain that business. So that runs the gamut here. With Springfield's Morning News, I'm Greg Bishop. One more says, was luxury condos ever mentioned? I think that's kind of what they were looking for, not necessarily luxury condos, but having a studio apartment in downtown Springfield, having a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom apartment in downtown Springfield, literally in the heart of downtown, in a pretty iconic part of the cityscape with the Wyndham City Centre, formerly known as the Hilton, formerly known as what somebody on Facebook kind of picked up on what I was throwing down there. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens because the time's ticking, and we'll keep you posted on all of it. It is Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY.